So hello everyone. Welcome to our complimentary webinar for today, Attracting and Retaining Talent. My name is James. I'm the Business Development and Sales Executive here at Brew Accounting, and I'll be your moderator for today. I'd like to introduce today's host, Joanna Stewart. Joanna is the Director of Brew Accounting and has a passion for supporting small business to achieve mind freedom, time freedom, and financial freedom. She has worked across the globe leading large and small finance functions to deliver strategic business goals. She founded Brew Accounting 10 years ago and has gathered an excellent team of professionals together to support you and your small business to grow and prosper. Without further ado, I'll introduce Joanna Stewart. Take it away.
Thanks so much, James, and thanks everyone for being here. So good to have you all in the room. We have the amazing Janelle and Claire with us, and I'll give you a brief summary of who they are, and then we'll dive straight into it. So Janelle has worked in the area of recruitment and hiring for over 20 plus years, specializing in navigating incentives, wage subsidies, and active schemes, ensuring you are accessing all that you are entitled to. Janelle and her team can help you to reach your company goals by navigating through the maze of available government incentives. Thanks, Janelle, for being here. Janelle, I asked you to tell me something most people might know about you, and you told me that you love to scuba dive, which is fantastic. So do I. Claire, thanks so much for being here. Claire's from Norgate HR Consulting, and she has an extensive career leading human resource functions in Australia and Asia. Claire's taken that experience to develop an advanced outsourcing HR model that takes the stress out of selecting, managing, progressing, and retaining talent for small to medium-sized business clients. So you can see that we have some real talent in the room. So please, as I say, ask the questions. So I'd like to kick off things today with this thought: focus on being productive instead of being busy. As employers, we know that being productive is more important than being busy. However, it's ingrained in our psyche to value our employees based on how many hours of work they do, even if this thinking can contribute to burnout, stress, rework, and other negative outcomes. Today, we're going to talk about a number of things that will help us be an employer of choice without negatively impacting the productivity of our people. Before we get stuck in, I just want to throw in our usual disclaimer that the information in this webinar is educational in nature and no substitute for tailored advice specific to your particular circumstances. And the beauty of this is that both Claire and Janelle are happy to have a complimentary meeting with you afterwards to be able to answer those burning questions for you. So, take what you can from it, but definitely book in with them at the end, because it's really, really amazing that they're willing to offer their insights to your business. So today we're going to discuss how you articulate your why is important to maintaining a happy, productive team. We'll cover the 4 disciplines of a healthy business, highlighting some simple leadership improvements you could make so that your team better understands the game plan and how they will support the execution of it. Then Janelle will run us through the incentives that are available to attract and train talent. Janelle, I think, must be the most knowledgeable person in this field in the country. So we're very lucky to have her with us. And also where some little snippets about where to look for new talent. So very exciting to hear from her. And then we'll jump to Claire to share with you about how you find out what your people are looking for and helping individuals to thrive. Claire has developed this over years and years of working in many countries, and will be able to walk you through this with all of her knowledge, which is so exciting. And then we'll go through the next steps and answer all your questions. So that's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to just start off with a few slides here. So let's briefly look at the golden circle. So it's created by Simon Sinek. This mindset demonstrates that your purpose should be at the core of what you do. Most businesses first describe what it is they do, followed by how they do it, and then they usually fail to talk about why the business exists for their customers. It's important to communicate from the inside out. This not only helps build an emotional connection with customers, it also unites your team in purpose and helps build their emotional connections to your company. So how do you describe your why or core purpose? This should be 5 to 7 words defining why you exist for your customers. When you have a clear purpose that your team understands, it's much easier to achieve alignment of thinking. For example, ours is to bring mind, time, and financial freedom to our clients. You know, this for us, this means being able to give them their time back, not have them stress at night with their, you know, worrying about things, and to be able to achieve their financial goals. When you've articulated your purpose, you can then talk about the how and then the what. Having a clear purpose signals to your customers and your people that you value purpose, not just profit. Here is another mindset, the 4 disciplines of a healthy business. These disciplines will provide a great foundation for attracting and retaining talent. The first step towards achieving organizational health is developing a cohesive leadership team. This means a leadership team that has built trust, mastered tactical conflict, is committed, has embraced accountability, and is focused on results. Next, you need to create true clarity for your team. There are 6 elements of clarity. The first one, why your business exists, your why, which we've just covered. And then, you know, the second one, how your business behaves, which can be defined by your core values. These are the guiding principles for how we make decisions and how we treat each other and our customers. The third one, what your business does, relates to how you deliver on your purpose. And the fourth one, how your business will succeed, is what you're recorded in your business plan. And the fifth and sixth one, what's important right now are the 90-day actions you identified in your plan. And then finally, who must do what is also recorded in your plan, as well as when it must be done. These elements of clarity not only help your team better understand the game plan, they provide guidelines to uplift workplace culture and ensure every team member is a team player and on board with executing the plan. On the flip side, every time a team member is distracted or disrupted by confusion or internal conflict, that is not constructive. We eat into our productive and bottom line. So those are the first mindsets I wanted to share. Now what I'd love to hand over to Janelle, and she's going to share with you around incentives and training and where you can find some great talent. Thanks, Janelle.
Thanks so much, Jo. Thanks everyone for attending today. What I'd like to, as we're talking about attracting and retaining talent, I think it's really important to know those things that we all know about, you know, SEEK, and we all know about, you know, the problems everyone's having and the fact that we don't have enough candidates in Australia to fulfill the roles we have. So what we do is we actually help companies to grow their businesses and to find the right talent, but also to maximise the revenue off when hiring people into government incentives that you might not already know about. Some people do, some people don't. So it depends on the size of your business. We work with a lot of recruitment firms. We work with small firms, small, medium firms, large firms. Anyone can tap into this so long as they have a business and they have an employee. So just to give you some background, you would have seen on the news recently that that Job Active has actually ceased and Workforce Australia has entered. Now, Workforce Australia is just nothing other than another word for Job Active, and they do that every so many years to just so they can claim it as being their own. Now, with that, we have there's been the biggest change with this one because it's the biggest since 1998. Okay, so we've heard all the changes within the NDIS and everything. This one is the biggest change that's going to occur. Unemployment is a record low at the moment, so this has thrown a few spanners in the works for the government. But to let you know, everything used to go through a stream A, B and C. So A was a very easy unemployed person, B was a bit harder, C was a longer term unemployed people. That has now been thrown out the window and they no longer use that. It's now going to be digital and enhanced services. So the digital is the online component. So when you're very first unemployed, and the reason I'm talking about unemployed If you employed casuals in your business, this is where all your people would be coming from. So as you go and hire someone, there'll be different degrees of unemployed. So when they first start to be unemployed, they will be, for the first 12 months, they'll be considered online or digital work. Then post that 12 months, they'll go into enhanced services. And that's when you can tap into wage subsidies and additional funding for those harder people to place. But I want you to be able to pick up on everything that's out there. So you know all the things that they don't tell you about. So that's why, you come along to learn these things. Okay, so to give you an idea, we're looking at, when I said wage subsidies, the government is willing to pay you up to $10,000 for hiring a casual. So they don't have to be permanent, they can be casual in a long-term sustainable role. And that long-term generally generates about 20 hours approximately a week over the 12 weeks up to 26 weeks worth of work. So if you've got people in hospitality, that could be staggered. If you're hiring people through different systems, like different providers, like the Parents Next, they might have only a requirement of being employed in work 15 hours, 10 hours. These are all the things that are unique to the different streams that we get people from through different providers. But I want you to know that there is money available. So if someone's getting any money from the government, then the government has something to give to you, because they're trying to incentivize you as employers to take candidates off the unemployment market. Now, as I said, up to $10,000 for a wage subsidy, and they generally pay that at different milestones throughout the process. It can be quite labour intensive to get it sorted, but once you've done it once, you can do it multiple times. We obviously can help you here, but it is something you can do yourself. So it is something where everyone can do their own tax, but they do find it's easy to get the most out of using a company that can do it. So it's along the same lines as that. Now, I want to talk about EPF. So the Employment Placement Fund is available for both online people, so those recently unemployed people, and also the long-term unemployed. Now, that means that if you're a business that needs responsible service of alcohol paid for, the government will pay for that. They'll pay for, leather shoes to work in any hospitality, or if you need something to do, if it's to do, I heard a dance school, they will pay for things that you need at a dance school. It might be Cert 4 and training. There's all these things the government will pay for to assist you in hiring new staff. If you're in construction, it could be things like hard hats, PPE, so vests, glasses, you name it. It could be tickets, it could be roller tickets to operate in labouring. Anything that you need, the government will pay for you up front. It's really good when you have to do things like working with children checks, or you have to do police checks, medicals. So definitely tap in, the government will pay. And the way that you get access to that is you go back to the different providers to get that funding. Okay, and I'll explain what a provider is. So a provider, I'll just click over here. A provider can come from many different areas. So the government has providers for people that are over age 55. They have providers for ex-offenders, providers for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, youth, Parents Next, cultural linguistic diverse backgrounds, people with a disability. Now, in saying that, what I'm saying, you don't just need to go to the local provider down the road. So everyone knows Max Employment, Serena Russo, Employment Pathways, Employment Plus, TERSA, and all these names are quite, you might not have heard of them, you might know them. You can get people through though, but you can get people through all these other providers as well, and they come with funding. So, for example, with disability, there's a whole area out there that just focus on disability. Now, don't just think people in a wheelchair. That only actually looks at 4% of people are in a wheelchair. Everyone else could have disabilities that might be anxiety. So we put people into roles where they don't want to be in crowds. So they've been a receptionist at a psychology practice, or they've been working in an area where, you know, they don't have to write anything down. There's lots of different things that you can do. So don't just think wheelchair or they're missing a limb or anything. That's not where it goes. But of course, we all think that. So with these areas, I think it's important to know that with the mature age, it makes up of the unemployment market at the moment. 21% of the people that are looking for work are over 55. Ex-offenders, 11%, Aboriginal, 10%, youth, 15%, people from different backgrounds, 20%. But the highest is actually there at 27%, which is for disability. So please don't discount that area. So you really open up your mind, and you'll find that you can really end up having a really supportive workforce that, you know, are very motivated to work. And you might need to do things like shorten their hours down. So you might say, okay, well, I need someone 8 hours a week or 15 hours a week, and they're perfect to tap into that. So going on to things about attracting people. So one of the things that that people and the government is doing at the moment, especially with the Job Summit, it's all about that skills part. Like, how can we train up the people we have out there to fill the roles that you have? Now, I just want to talk a little bit about traineeships and apprenticeships. That's great, and sometimes that can really help you if you're looking for chefs and things like that. But when you're looking for people that are just casual staff members that are, you know, you want to come and work in your area, you're not really looking for that long-term sort of commitment for a 2-year trainee or apprentice where they have to be put on as a full-time employee. So what you can do is you can put on, you can put people through short courses that the government will pay for, and I can go into a little bit more about that. But with trainees and apprentices, the government does give you incentives to hire people. So in this candidate shortage market, if you are going to hire someone, it's not a bad idea to put them on as a permanent part-timer. Now, if you do that, the government will then give you an incentives to make that happen. So you'll be able to pick up, you can put their wages down. I don't urge people to put their wages down at the moment, given it's such a candidate short market, but the government will pay you $5,000 for the first 2 years of them being in training. So that's being paid to you as the employer. They'll also give you $1,500 per quarter for the first 2 years if it's an apprenticeship, and it's up to $750 per quarter for the 3rd year. And while that person is actually in training, if you are paying payroll tax, the government will give you back funds for payroll tax. So depending on how much you're going to be paying for that person year upon year, it can be quite advantageous for you to do that. Now, to know about apprenticeships and traineeships, and you think, well, how do I find them? How do I find these courses? You can go, there is a website called training.gov.au, which will show you all the courses that are available. But I want to point out the 2 things you need to know here. Anytime you put someone onto a traineeship and you want to attract incentives or payroll tax, you need to have an RTO involved, which is a registered training provider. You also need to have an ASIN. Okay, so registered training provider means you can't just use someone down the road that started doing a training course. They need to be a registered training course with the government. And that means that the course modules they're delivering can be exchanged in any state. So it's like a TAFE course. They get a module number and the module can be used in any state. Now with an ASIN, that's the Australian Apprenticeship Support Network. Now with the ASIN means that you've been signed up, you're able to then access funds from the government. So the funds that you can see on your screen right now is how you access them. If you're not signing anyone up with an ASIN, then you're not getting these funds. Okay, you're just paying a fee for service. So that's really important. They're not hard to work out. You just need to find an ASIN, which is only 7, MEGT, MRail. I can let you know. Come back to me. I'll let you know. Not a problem. And the RTO, you need to have the course that you want to go for. So if you are looking at hiring someone, attracting someone with a in the way of getting money, incentives, then definitely put them onto a traineeship. The other things that I won't go into detail because this list is honestly goes on forever, but it's supporting women in non-traditional roles. There's money available for regional apprenticeships for Boost, apprenticeship support loans. The government will actually pay for your apprentice $21,000. They'll give them as a loan so they can buy things. They might need to buy knives, or they might need to buy drills or whatever it might be they're going into. The government will also support living away from home allowance. So if they need to go somewhere else and you want to move someone from one area to another, they'll also, you'll obviously get the disability wage support, as well as there's another government service called Job Access where the government will pay for any modifications you want to make. So the reason that I haven't gone in there too much is because I'm saying really there's not a lot of people who actually do need those changes to their work environment, but just know that it exists. So you don't need to pay anything else. So don't be afraid there. And something that obviously the government is never going to advertise is the fact that you can legally double dip between state and federal schemes. And we can tell you which ones you can double dip on. So you can't get a wage subsidy and a training incentive, but you could get a boost incentive and a wage subsidy. So there's different things you can double dip, and that's what we help to navigate that for different businesses. So in summary, finding staff, I think it's important to know that you need to reach out to not only just your networks that you currently use, but also look at the different providers that you can tap into. So you're getting as many people as possible applying for your role. Ask if a person is registered. So every single time you hire someone, ask them, are you registered with a provider? And whatever they tell you, write it down. Call me up. I'm happy to answer the question and advise you. Okay, ask if a person, are they receiving any incentives at the moment? That's important to know as well. That will tell you whether you can tap in and receive those the EPF fund, like the PPE gear that you need to get. Don't sacrifice quality for dollars ever. So a lot of people sometimes see stars in their eyes or dollar signs in their eyes, and they're like, oh, I'll hire all these people. I'm saying calm down. Just pick the people that you really want to hire. That's going to support your business to achieve your goals. Don't just pick people for the sake of it. But if there is money out there and you want to attract it to you, then definitely, if it's there for the taking. So you just need to put your hand up. If there's something you'd like to discuss more, obviously Joe will bring up my details later, and please feel free to put down some questions. I'd love to answer them, but my details are there. Reach out. But that's all from me, and I'd like to pass you over to the wonderful Claire Long, who is the founder of Norgay HR. So over to you, Claire.
Now you've got the people in your business. How do you keep them, and what are they looking for? And my best advice that I can give to you here is just ask them. I think there's a common misconception that we kind of know the answers already based on what the latest trend is out in the market, but it's not actually the case. The individual engagement drivers are just that. They're very individual, and one of the things that we really suggest to our clients is to actually find out through a culture scan. Now, many of you have probably seen this quote by legendary management consultant Peter Drucker: culture eats strategy for breakfast. Now, what he's not saying, just to be clear, he's not saying that strategy isn't important, but what he is saying that the right culture, a strategy supportive culture, will actually be a better route to business success. So how do you find out about the culture in your business? Well, first, before I jump to that, a definition of culture, or certainly how we define it. In short, it's the way we do things around here. It's what makes the business unique. It's the sum of the values, the traditions, the beliefs, the behaviors, the attitudes. So it's a bit like your company's personality. And conducting a culture scan or a feedback process is a great way to understand the work environment from your team's perspective, in other words, the culture, as well as how strong the employee relations are with your business. The stronger those employee relationships are with your business, the better outcomes you are going to be able to get through your teams. So when you're conducting a questionnaire like this or a survey like this, you want to really probe into questions that have the most impact on culture. And Joe's already mentioned leadership. Leadership and management style is very incredibly important driver of culture. So you want to really be probing into that area. You want to be asking about communication in the workplace. So do people really understand the strategy of their business, the role that they play in that, and are they really aligned to that? One other area that often does get sort of glossed over, but we do spend some time and encourage you to do that. How are people being rewarded in your business? Because once again, rewards are a key driver of culture. And I'll give you a really simple example on that. If you've got somewhere in your value statement, and even if you don't, but if you're trying to create a team culture or a team environment, yet your reward structures are all based around individuals, you can see straight away that there's a misalignment there. You're rewarding people for individual effort rather than rewarding them for team-based effort. And there's a really simple methodology. Well, it can be complex, but it doesn't need to be. For those that want to look into this a little bit more, it's called OKR, Objectives, Key Results. Some of you may have heard about it. There's some really good collateral, free collateral on the website. Google it. You'll find a lot of information on how you would implement a process like that in your business to create alignment with the people in your business. Again, I use this word alignment a lot, and I do that quite intentionally. I am yet to see employee engagement feedback that does not mention how important career development processes are in a business. And I don't care how small they are or how large they are. We work with businesses. The smallest business we work with is actually a singing school. They have 5 staff. The largest we work with have 160 to 170 staff. It always comes up in these engagement processes or these feedback processes. I would like to understand the strategy. I would like to know how my role contributes to the strategy. I would like to know what the success criteria is for my role. And therefore, you get to the point where you're really aligning the work efforts of individuals to the strategic objectives of your business. Just a fun fact, or maybe not so fun, according to Gallup, and Gallup have been looking at this stuff for decades, only 2 in 10 employees strongly agree that their performance is led in a way that motivates them. So that represents a huge opportunity area. And if there's one area I would encourage you to focus on, it's that, and think about it as aligning people's work efforts to what's important to your business. So the way you do that is through your career development program. It doesn't have to be overly structured. We design all sorts of programs to suit the needs of our business, but it is the opportunity to reinforce the values you're looking to bring to life in your business, the culture you're looking to create, and also the way that you align everyone's work efforts to business goals. Okay. Other common themes that we see when we run these types of processes, flexibility, that's become a really big one since COVID. Not everybody enjoyed lockdown, that's for sure, but not everybody wants to go back into the office 5 days a week either. So what we're finding with our clients, we're landing on a hybrid model in most cases. We do have one client who adopted a fully remote only or remote first practice, but even they've now introduced a sort of a workspace for people to come into to reconnect physically, which I think makes a lot of sense, on that. Other common themes help me focus or help me with my well-being, a focus on my well-being. Again, with COVID, we saw a much higher demand on our requirement to provide counselling services to our clients. Luckily, we have a great partner in that space. So we certainly did see that, that aspect of engagement in terms of the need increase over the last couple of years. ESG, business ethics, ESG, I'm not sure if any of you know what this means. It's a relatively new term, but basically it's this. It's driving business growth, but at the same time doing it in a way that's more sustainable and ethical, or provides an ethical and more sustainable future for the world. So I think that's really becoming quite a hot topic for sure. Diversity inclusion, another hot topic. You know, does your workplace represent community more broadly? And just remember on diversity and inclusion, there's good business reasons to make sure that it does, because that encourages and promotes innovation in your business. So it's a really important area as well. And we see that a lot in the feedback that we get. Make it easy to do my job. Invest in technology as an enabler. And I'm not talking, remember, we work with small to medium businesses only, so they don't have the budgets of the big end of town. I'm not talking about big enterprise systems, but there are some really terrific cloud-based tools out there that are priced extremely well for the small to medium market. So have a look at that and see how you can make the work lives of your teams even better through the introduction of technology. Similarly to a focus on my well-being, work-life blend. But what we're talking about here is a little bit more specific on well-being. It's more around what's the workload like? Is the workload reasonable? And I actually have a personal view that over COVID lockdowns, many of our teams certainly got into pretty not great work habits. So if you think about it, you probably did it yourself. You got up, you walked down the stairs or 3 steps to whatever table you were working on that day, and you just head down and you didn't take a break. And, you know, lo and behold, you're still there at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. That's become a learned behavioural pattern now over the last couple of years. And I definitely think we need to acknowledge it and actually put a hard stop on it, because I don't think that that's a healthy work-life blend. And it certainly has had a big impact over the last couple of years with COVID as well. Now, the one other thing I'll leave you with on the feedback, pay attention to any feedback that suggests any hint of a culture of bullying, harassment, discrimination, or any other behaviours that just don't work in our modern day. And it's not only because it's not right, it's a risk to your business. So if you're a listed business, for example, the board has significant responsibilities for culture, financial, operational, risk, people. And even if you're not listed, I'd encourage you to really prioritise your interest in culture, as it can still be a significant business risk if something's going on that you're not addressing. And that risk is both a legal and a financial one. I'll give you an example of that in an engagement feedback session I had probably 12 months ago now. As I was feeding back to a board, and I only had about 10 minutes on the agenda, as can happen with board meetings, but I was there for over half an hour with the chair really grilling me and really digging deep into this area of, well, how do we know something's not going on that shouldn't be going on? And it really interested me. And I'm just now in the final stages of completing the company directors course, but I know why he was so hot on that topic, because there is significant risk for directors and what they call officers, which could include management. If something's going on, you know about it and you're not dealing with it. In fact, even if you don't know about it, it's not a defense to say management didn't tell us. So pay particular attention to anything that might be going on that you really need to deal with. And that's it from me. So I'm going to hand it back over to Joe.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much, Janelle and Claire. So insightful and so wonderful. We're coming to the end of it now. If some of you have to leave, please do click on the link for our exit survey, which will give you an opportunity to give us some feedback and also book in for your complimentary session with both Claire and Janelle. So just to finish off, I'll say how we value work is changing and the job market is tight. Our aim is to help you take what you've learned today and implement some positive change in your business. So we'll go through this and then we'll have an opportunity for questions and answers. So what are your next steps from here? Doing nothing is not an option. Other businesses are doing a lot in this space and attracting the talent from other organizations. Focus on the simple things you can do. They will likely have a big impact. We're happy to help you in this space. To the questions. What does anybody have any specific questions they want to ask? I know from listening to both Janelle and Claire, I've got a few questions myself, but if you do have any questions, please pop them into the chat panel there. Janelle, I'll just start with you if you don't mind. Let's say I don't use people who come from a Workforce Australia provider, how will this benefit me?
Okay, I think a lot of people say to us, you know, oh, we don't use those people, or we don't use any providers, or we find people through word of mouth. So what I think is important to know is there's no two separate groups of people. Actually, everybody who is unemployed, and they're the same group. They're one and the same. So just knowing that means that you need to ask every single person, are they registered, that comes through the door? And just so even if they're a friend, they're a neighbour, you've got someone working for you that's brought someone else in, ask the question, because if they are receiving any dollars from the government, there is money available for them. Okay, you don't need to go to a provider to get them. You just need to know where they're registered with.
Okay, well, that's really helpful. So even you could have a family or friend who is registered with a provider, and then you can tap into getting funds through that provider for them. Okay, that's fantastic.
That's right.
Yeah. And then Janelle, another question that I had is, you know, is there any training that is available that I can access to train up staff other than a full traineeship, like a hospitality staff, or, you know?
Yeah, there definitely is. So at the moment, the government has a lot of free courses that are available. But if you didn't want to go through down the line of doing a full traineeship, which means you need to put the person on permanent or part-time, what you can do, and if you're looking at training up casuals, you can do some pre-employment training, and the government can actually, you can get paid to do that. And that can be around soft skills. And soft skills mean things like engaging with people that might be in aged care, or engaging with hospitality staff, or doing something that's not considered a course like the RSA, Responsible Service Alcohol, is not considered an RTO course. So therefore, you're able to, you know, tap into those things. So don't always think it's going to be a long-term course. There's lots of things you can tap into that are really short, that do help to make your candidates that you're hiring a lot more upskilled and suitable for your jobs.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Thanks so much. And Claire, I had a few questions for you, if that's all right. So when it comes to engagement feedback, what would be considered a good overall engagement score?
Okay, so I'll just explain how the scores work, because well, certainly the tool that we use, but we use another one as well. But the main one we use, the overall score is a roll-up of 5 questions, actually. So just to kind of set that context, anything from between 70 and 75% is pretty good. 80% is great, and anything above 80% is really, really great. We had a client achieve that just recently. It's the second time they ran it, which was absolutely fantastic. But the other side to that question, which is important to speak about as well, you want to also focus on what your participation rate goal is, because it's all well and good getting scores like that if you've only got 30% of people actually responding. And if you've got a whole lot of people that aren't responding, that can say something quite else about what's going on in the business. So you're really looking for a participation rate of at least 80% in your business.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Just a couple other questions. What do you see as the role of an employer if a team member reaches out for mental health support?
Right, yeah, this is a really relevant one as well. Look, ideally they would have a role, and every single one of our clients provided their teams, or do even actually still do provide their teams or their employees with EAP, so employee assistant packages that can take various forms. But I actually don't believe that ongoing support, yes, but ongoing medical care is not, really should not be borne, or the cost of that shouldn't be borne by business owners, particularly in the small to medium sector. So the way we've structured things with our clients, 3 counselling sessions on demand, and if then their need is greater than that, then we steer people to their own GP to then get onto a mental health plan, which is going to suit their needs so much better.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the final one, you mentioned ESG as a theme in feedback. What is a way that SMEs can have a focus on sustainable work practices?
Yeah, it's a good question. I can talk about our own business. So we work with a technology product that ensures for our clients that all of the employee documentation, onboarding, performance career developments, all of those processes around managing, attracting, retaining people are paperless. So it might not sound like a lot, but it actually does make a big difference. So that's just one way that we make a difference. We work that way internally as a team, but we also really encourage our clients to work in the same way. We don't really have anyone. Actually, there is a client that we're talking to in the kind of environmental space. So for them, you know, the way they're going to have to think about that is really look at what their risk appetite is around any breaches from an environmental perspective, because there is some risk there. So again, we would be raising that question with them and having them consider how they would respond to that.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks so much. So that's pretty much it, unless anybody else has a question that you wanted to ask. So before we go, I'll share this last quote. Individuality is freedom lived. Make a simple plan today. Commit to making some change as a result of this webinar. Remember, if you need our support, we're here for you. And James, I'll give you the last slide.
All right. Thank you, everyone, especially our talented and amazing guest speakers, Janelle and Claire. If you do need their contact details, just reach out. And we want to thank everyone for sharing their valuable time with us. And as we do, one favor we do ask is for you to go through our quick survey so we can get your feedback and what other topics you would like us to cover during our next complimentary webinar. So again, thank you everyone for sharing and attending this webinar, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the day.